Welcome back to Garage 512, everybody. Thank you for pushing play. Thank you for liking and subscribing. It really helps me build the channel. So thank you again. Quick video today, just going to be talking about the engine build, some of the supporting mods that make that engine work efficiently. I'm going to hit those today. Stick around to the end because I am going to show off the engine dyno video that LME sent me. Those are the best numbers it's going to make. Admittedly, I left about 20 horsepower on the table for not going 14-to-1 compression. I didn't think I had E85 near me, but it is what it is. At least it'll be a nice, safe, reliable, high horsepower build that I can use for the track. So stick around to the end. I'm going to show that video along with the final engine dyno numbers. And then once I get it back and installed, I'll do another video for just kind of showing off how much it makes to the tires, because that's really all that really matters, is how much does it put to the ground, right? So stick around to the end and let's get into this. So about the new stroker specs. It is a 454 stroker built on an LSR block, all aluminum, super strong. It's considered an over square stroke, meaning that the bore is larger than the stroke. The bore is a 4.185 bore by 4.125 stroke. The cam specs, 256, 268, with a lift of 652, 652. The LSA is a 113 plus 4. The pistons are diamond, but because of me, not being 100% sure that I had E85 in my neighborhood or around me, I had them just do 12.5-to-1 compression pistons. That's on me. I pretty much left 20 horsepower on the table by not going 14-to-1, but it will be a safe, reliable, high horsepower build. So the pistons are 12.5-to-1, but we did mill the CID heads down to increase compression and used a thinner gasket as well. So effectively, my compression ratio is a 13.25-to-1. I'm running a K-Tech oil pump along with K-Tech valve covers. K-Tech valve covers are red, and so the goal is to have those pop by everything in the engine compartment being black. So it has a K-Tech oil pump, it has K-Tech valve cover, it has a E85 flex fuel sensor, so because of that high compression, I really needed to run E85, so it will be exclusively corn fed. E85 tends to burn cleaner, cooler, has more octane. I think it's 105 to 108 octane, assuming you get good E. So I have a testing kit. In fact, I will do a video on the two stations that are near me just to take a look and see what their E85 is testing at. Obviously, things are going to change by the time I do my next fill up, but I will test it every time I go, just to be on the safe side. The flex fuel sensor will scale down the horsepower so I don't blow anything, but I want to try to get obviously as close to 85% ethanol as possible. That's why I have my test kit. So stay tuned for a video on that stuff. I talked to Pat G about the fuel system. He suggested going with 4 innovations. That's a dual fuel pump scenario. So that, and the way he explained it is that we don't want the engine to starve for fuel. So we'll have one fuel pump running at lower RPMs. And then when I'm wide open and I'm really cranking out the RPMs, the second fuel pump kicks in to make sure that the engine has always got good E in it. That's new. Didn't do that with the last stroker. Okay, so this time around, I am going with a Stealth Mamo ported MSD intake. So unlike the previous one that was on the car, which had those horrible red MSD Air Force lettering, I decided to have Tony shave that shit off. So that's why everything is black. Yeah, I could have just gone black in terms of, the color, paint over the lettering, but I decided, what the hell, I'm just going to have it all shaved off and make everything stealthy. So if you look at this picture here, you can see the top of the intake manifold is devoid of all of those ugly letters. And if you look at this next picture, you can see the, excuse me, the portwork on the intake itself. So those are the runners there. I think they only went in, according to LME, when they looked at it, they only went in maybe, I don't know, half an inch, maybe a little bit further. I mean, it wasn't like the entire runner. So you can see right there a little closer some of the port work that was done there. This is Tony Memo's port job. This next one is where the Nick Williams 103 is going to go. So you can see they did some port work right there at the entry there. I don't know how far back they went. I imagine at some point, you know, it is what it is. Air is going to get turbulent, but you try to get it as smooth as possible up front. So that's what Tony did for me. He did the stealth intake, all black, no lettering look, along with the port work for the runners and the intake manifold. So that's that. Injector dynamics are the injectors that Pat G recommended, the ID 1050s in particular. I will have a DeWitt's radiator. I did not have one on the last stroker. I told the previous buyer for that last car to not drive it to Nevada. You will overheat. And so I did not have a DeWitt's radiator with the last build. This one, I will, from the jump, because I am not trying to go through overheating issues again. In the engine compartment, I have a black Nick Williams 103 throttle body and a Tuscan 240 amp black alternator along with a black alternator bracket. Because everything will be mostly black under the hood, I went with jet hot ceramic coated Cook's headers. So I had the Cook's headers sent to them and they ceramic coated it in their traditional chrome looking powder coat or ceramic coat. So the headers and the valve covers will really pop. I can't wait to see what that looks like. I went with B&B Fusion MPP exhaust. These are Gen 3s. I think back in the day, back in 2010-ish or so, it was the Gen 1s that I had. I did stay with round tail lights, tail lights. I did go with round tips, but I went with black round tips this time. That wasn't an option way back when. And the reason I'm doing that is because the Apex wheels are black. Pretty much everything is black on the car. So I wanted to keep that look going. Black exhaust tips because I plan on running black wheels most of the time when I'm not on the track. Regarding the oil, LME suggested this particular oil. It's called Driven XP6 Synthetic. He suggested a 20 weight 50. The performance shop where I'm at, CF Works, where they're going to be doing the install, they suggest it because of the high heat here in Texas and whatnot. Not that LME isn't in Texas, but he suggested 10 weight. A 15 weight instead of a 20 weight. Curious if you've got any thoughts on that in warmer climates. What do you think? 15 weight, 20 weight. Oh, I almost forgot. I have Johnny O'Connell sway bars. I had those on my last stroker. I definitely wanted those for the track. So I got a set of front and rear Johnny O'Connells. They're yellow, which is awesome, like the yellow cars that won Le Mans. The car already had the, I think they're called DRS Bilstein shocks. So it's going to be a great track setup. I can't wait to get it on the track. With that said, that's pretty much everything that I'm going to do to the car, with the exception of some superficial things. Like I will have a set of side skirts and front splitter that are going to be hydro dipped. So one of the things that I learned with the last car is to forego the whole carbon fiber thing. It looks great. I love the look, but the reality is they crack. You hit things, speed bumps. It's not worth it. These that I bought are plastic and they are hydro dipped, so they look like carbon fiber without all the grief of carbon fiber. So we are going plastic on the side skirts because that stuff is junk when it gets damaged, and these things aren't going to cost that much. They didn't cost very much. I can buy a set of 3 again for like, I don't know, $600. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in those. along with some of the other things that I've got going on here. But that's one of the biggest changes that I'm making. We are not doing carbon fiber front splitter and side skirts on this build. They're going to look the same, but they won't behave the same. They are not going to crack and look like crap every time I hit a speed bump. No matter how careful you get or you try to be, something always happens. I mean, it's low to the ground. So plastic it is. Was it worth it? Well, you know, can't answer that question until I get some seat time in the car with the new motor. So my expectation is that the motor will be in and ready to be tuned, dyno tuned, hopefully at the end of September. We'll see. But, you know, stay tuned for videos on that. I suspect it'll be worth it. I miss my old stroker. I miss the torque. I miss it, all of that. So all the things. So I'm looking forward to getting some seat time in there, and then I will answer that question. Before I end this, I probably should just go ahead and give my PSA on PSA. I have new updated numbers for myself. I got my PSAs back. It is down to 1.14, so still not below 1 yet. But we are getting there. Probably in the next couple of months, I suspect I'll be below 1. But that's just a reminder to always make sure the doctor checks that PSA box. He wasn't going to even. I even asked him, you know, he's like, this is your physical. We don't normally do. I was like, I need you to do. So he checked the PSA box on the blood form. I got the numbers back. It's 1.14. I think it was 1.45 back in May. I'll throw up my chart and you can see what that trend is looking like. But it's a nice downward trend. So with that said, make sure that when you go for your yearly physicals that you have the doctor check that PSA box on your blood form, right? No reason not to do it. You're there for a physical anyway. Let's go ahead and get that box checked. Just please remind the doctor because they're human. And if you're not 50 plus years old, they're probably not going to do it anyway. So track those numbers and get your history so that you know what's unusual, right? That's how I was able to spot an unusual spike, right? Everything was all fine and dandy until it wasn't. So check that box, everybody, and check out this video.
It's dangerous! You will